Why are people paying absurd money for this old BMW?
Normally, we are starting our video by me standing by a motorcycle. Well, today is a bit different. Today, we are shooting about BMW and I needed to take this opportunity to push my very own car in a video. So let's talk about BMW for a second. They actually started way back in 1916 making airplane engines. Then they started making motorcycles in 22 and it took them another 6 years, so 1928, before their very first car rolled off the line. And that's kinda how it went for a long time. The bikes were a big hit in one lane and the cars were crushing it in another. Then once 60s hit, BMW really started pushing their cars in motorsport. You know the saying, win on Sunday, sell on Monday. And thanks to it, in the early 70s, BMW was really focused on cars. Their automotive division was booming, making sleek, high-performance vehicles that were defying luxury and engineering. Motorcycles, by comparison, felt almost a secondary concern in the grand scheme of the company's ambitions, which was a shame. Motorcycles started the whole thing.
Well, take their /5 series, for example. It was BMW's top bike back then. It was reliable, true German engineering, but honestly, thanks to something like Honda CB754, it felt a little pretty, boring. It had drum brakes, a twin-shock suspension. Sure, it was a big step up from the older /2 series, and in later years, you could get it even in more colors than just black. But with just only 50 horsepower, it just couldn't compete with those powerful Japanese bikes.
Jung, frisch, dynamisch. Er ist ein moderner Mann, erfolgreich und aktiv. Sein neuester Sport, die neue BMW 24-Liter-Tank, Kardanantrieb, Zweizylinder-Boxermotor, langhubige Telegabel, elektrischer Anlasser. Von 0 auf 100 in 6,4 Sekunden und dabei spielend leicht zu fahren. BMW aus Liebe zur Technik.
Reliable? Absolutely. Exciting? Well, I'm not sure about it.
BMW was really struggling with motorcycle sales to the point where they were even considering just cancelling the entire motorcycle division. Can you imagine that? But then there was this guy, Bob Lutz. He convinced BMW to try something totally different, something sportier, sexier, more exclusive. And that's when they came up with this. Bob pulled Hans Muth from the automotive design team to create something completely new and exciting. While they started with the frame and suspension from the familiar R75/5, they basically built the whole new bike around it. They bored out the engine to 900 cc to give it a top speed of 200 km/h. It has sporty camshaft, 5-speed gearbox and double ATE disc brake in front. They fitted the engine with Delta carburetors with acceleration pump and painted the cylinders black to let everybody who's checking up their mirrors know that R90S is coming. And it's fucking interesting that this bike, which is 50 years old, you are still capable of going 120 on the normal roads. Definitely when it comes to braking, you have to be a bit more careful about the brakes. Disc brakes are the first ones that BMW used, and the system is a bit complicated because you have the cable from the lever to the brake pump, which is located under the tank. And from the brake pump there goes hoses to the brake calipers. So when the brake cable isn't in 100% condition, you are losing lots of power which can be normally used for braking. And what I love about these airheads, which came with the spoked wheels, is that it is drum brake. Later in 1978 they came with the Brembo disc brake in the rear, and it's not braking about half good as this drum brake, so it really works. It works really well.
But what really made it stand out was its look. The R90S had distinctive sport seat, the sleek fairing with 4 dials and a bold color combination. It first came out with this silver and black TT silver smoke, and later added Daytona orange. This bike completely caught everyone off guard. Journalists loved the R90S and gave it rave reviews, but a lot of people were shocked by the price. At $3,400 you could literally buy 2 Kawasaki's at once and still have $500 left. Still, it turned out to be worth every penny. The German engineering and precision combined with cool and sporty look, that's what people had been waiting for.
So even though this R90S, it's, well, as means like sport, the bike isn't any uncomfortable. It's still touring bike, but with a sporty feel, and it's quite interesting that you can ride this bike sporty, but you can also tour it. But if you want to, you can rev it up to 6, where the bike is totally okay with it. Now I'm gearing 15, 140 kilometers per hour, and it's totally okay for the bike.
BMW hadn't won a major road race since before the war, way back in 1939 at the Tourist Trophy. They just decided to give it another shot a few decades later with the rider Helmut Dahne, who was riding his heavily modified R75/5. But now he had the right machinery, the R90S.
Nach dem Fahrerwechsel Hans-Otto Butenut auf der BMW von Helmut Dahne. Helmut Dahne.
But things were really heating up in America, where the American imported Butler and Swift were racing R75s. But these guys were always held back by engine size limit, which was 750cc. Everything changed in 1976 when new AMA Superbike Championship was opened with different engine limit, up to 1000cc, which was great opportunity to test new R90S. They hired star riders like Steve McLaughlin and Reggie Pridmore, and they got to work on the bikes. They basically built racing specials. The engines were bought out to a liter, got titanium connecting rods and better cooling. The cylinder heads had completely different walls, and the delta carbs were a few millimeters bigger. They even shortened the cylinders by 2 centimeters to give the bikes more cornering clearance. The frame and suspension were also heavily modified, with the 2 rear shocks being replaced by a single central unit to keep the bike stable on fast American tracks.
Back then, the superbike rules were pretty relaxed, so engineers had a ton of freedom to modify the bikes. And the result? BMW completely dominated the championship, taking first 3 places in it. And that was the first and the last time after the war that BMW won the major road racing championship with a boxer engine. Well, if you want to see this racer on your own eyes, you can still see it in BMW Museum in Munich.
Okay, it's my dad's bike. I will hold my horses, I will not push it. But man, it wants to be pushed. It wants to go 120 kilometers on roads like these, on these small roads, twisty roads. Oh shit. I'm running out of fuel. Thanks to the Lord of Carbs, it's a bit thirsty.
R90S was produced for only 3 years, but it absolutely kickstarted motorcycle division with its popularity and sporting success. 7,455 pieces was final production number. Well, they simply sold as many as they could make. It has simply turned BMW motorcycles from ugly duckling into fancy-colored sports bike. And R90S was quickly followed by R100S, or innovative sport touring bike RS. Well, as BMW was simply willing to invest more money in the motorcycle business. Today, 50 years later, BMW is winning World Superbike Championship. But they say there is no fire without a spark, back in 1975 of AMA Superbike Championship.